Hello, hello. We are back. It is time for more of this wonderful world building extravaganza. There are going to be only 5 of us this time, as people had prior obligations and the like, etc.
Etc., etc., and so forth.
And so forth, yes. So, we will be having Dan come in here whenever he's ready, once he gets home. But until then, it is us. You're stuck with us. Just the 4 of us. And since people roughly know who we are, I suppose we just have to determine what we're doing first.
I recommend going to literally anyone besides me. I don't have a lot.
Fair.
I mean, I kind of dominated shit last time. I feel bad about that.
No, it's okay.
I feel bad for sharing my lore on the lore sharing stream. I'm so, like, relatable. Matt, change. Sorry.
I mean, there's a reason. Yeah, Dan and I get. There's a reason Dan and I get along.
Well then.
Don't die, Doc. If you die on a stream, your spirit is forever cursed to haunt the algorithm.
Oh, shit. Can't have that.
Boy. I suppose I should also lead up with the whole thing of, since Ronan wasn't here last time.
Yeah. So, I'm coming in minus session 2.
Yeah, that's where I shared a little bit on what I've already made.
Well, since we got nothing else to do, I wouldn't mind a recap.
Alright. Let me pull it up. And keep in mind, with everything that I'm about to reshare again, this was I wrote this like a couple of years ago, so it lacks a lot of nuance.
Yeah, okay, be blunt.
So Zagritha, which is what this galaxy is going to be called, is a galaxy that mixes sci-fi with fantasy, as you already know, but the main thing that I went over, basically, was the main 2 factions called the Obsidians and the Blazes.
Mm-hmm.
Each is they kind of juxtapose each other a little bit, with the Obsidians being the perversion of the powers that the Blazes have, but still their own thing. If that makes sense.
Okay, so when you say perversion, does that mean that they are spawned from the other's power, or are they separate entities but represent a similar ideal?
Everyone can hear the gears turning in my head.
I know, hard-hitting questions right out of the gate.
Yes, I can hear them straining. I think they need some oil, Zell.
Yeah. Okay. So basically how it is in, because I have like a whole bunch of different stuff, the Obsidians and the Blazes are 2 different things, but have very similar powers, and blazes can become obsidians by falling to the whispers. But the obsidians were a thing before, around the same time as blazes came into being. So same but different.
Okay. So, Lord of the Rings style elves and orcs cannibal?
Kind of.
Personally, I went to I went to Babylon 5 with the Vorlons and the Shadows.
See, that would make sense for you and not me, because I don't believe I've ever seen Babylon 5.
I haven't either.
That's because I'm old as shit.
The main thing I've played where universal forces of good and evil exists is D&D. And even then, they have this weird middle ground.
Yeah.
So
Neutral's pretty
I
weird.
was a bit more critical of Zell's lore for that reason, because
Yes.
it does not feel
Nuance.
very nuanced.
Yeah. Which is why I went back into the collab zone and stated, okay, change of thing. You guys can constructive criticism this and give me suggestions, but ultimately I have the final say.
Well, I don't think that there being an ultimate good and an ultimate evil is that bad, so long as the galaxy itself is the shade of gray.
Yeah, it was more that the way it was described to me was everyone in this one empire is kind of evil and everyone in this one empire is kind of good. And that felt really, really reductive.
Yeah,
So I was
I
very
can see that.
critical of that.
okay. Well, I haven't heard that part yet, but I assume I'm probably going to have the same opinion. But let's continue with the recap after my assailing.
Yep, it's okay. Basically, the Obsidians are the most antagonistic force of the galaxy, conquering and oppressing those they meet. They are a militant dictatorship, led by a leader with the title of Devil. He's the one that basically keeps the military in line, because everyone is scared shitless of him.
Tyranny. Classic.
Yep.
Yeah, the good old ass kicking equals authority trope.
Yeah. Their military is more chaotic than the Blazes, while the Blazes are more creative in their way of thinking. The Obsidians are just chaotic in terms of military. Their home territory is... Their home system is called the Void Realm, with their home planet being, Obios.
Mm-hmm.
The Void Realm is
Yes. The Void Realm is where countless stars have been extinguished, and all planets within have been under the Obsidian rule since they emerged. No one steps into this territory unless they wish for a suicide mission or are crazy enough to try and get information.
Oh, the Void Realm. Man, I love Risk of Rain 2.
And then,
Okay.
yeah. Obios is a barren planet that was laid waste by the first devil when he was trying to get more power, ruining its surface and destroying most that were on the planet. But they still preserve after millennia. Basically, for that one in particular, if people are familiar with Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO, think Ziost. That kind of thing.
Okay. So what I'm hearing here is this civilization is power-hungry with a meritocracy like ascension, where powerful obsidians become devils through accruing power and utilizing that power to crush opposition.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Now that can be nuanced. Because, well, it's a power dynamic that leaves a lot for the mundanity of the entire civilization. Like, if everybody's oppressing everybody else, who does the cooking and cleaning?
Hmm.
I
Because not
also.
every.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. I thought you were done.
No, please go ahead.
I was also critical of the idea that you can rule a very, very, very large swath of people through fear alone, because it's
That
really difficult to kind of uphold that kind of authority through a large, large thing without any sort of propaganda, any sort of just information control. You need people to do that kind of shit.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. Uh, the other part of the other way you could do that is if you shared power through, uh, well, essentially devil feudalism, where a devil can't be everywhere at once, even if he is incredibly powerful, thus separating parts of his power and giving it to other devils, thus perpetuating the continued struggle for dominance by keeping everybody else in check while they're vying for what little scraps of power he gives out. That way, they oppress themselves as much as he oppresses everyone else.
That is interesting. I never thought about that, but that could work.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that tyranny can be upheld in a fantasy setting or in a technological setting. What the good doctor here was probably trying to get through was a dystopian technocracy. Information control, large scale manipulation. Everybody believing that the devil is here. He sees you. He knows you. Kind of like any dystopian sci-fi or Warhammer 40k.
Yeah. Uh, my point was also kind of like, even like the default dystopia horrific setting of 1984, like literal 1984, said most of the masses are just basically controlled with bread and circuses. They're not actively controlled through fear.
Which is also true. In a certain culture, that would be a really good way to do things. If the entire race has an ingrained pursuit of power, authority, wealth, stealing everything you can from everyone around you, bread and circuses would be less effective than overwhelming control and petty acts of benevolence. Like, I don't know, having a structured hierarchy of bullshit job titles that are incrementally more authoritative than the last.
Oh, you can't say that kind of thing. Someone might think we're doing social commentary.
No, we're doing social engineering. Commentary would get you shot.
As a Star Trek fan, I say, bring on the social commentary.
Gotcha.
But, yeah, ultimately, decent points. New ways to look at an old species. Anything else you'd like to add, Zell?
The one thing that I didn't get to about the Obsidians was that they have mystical powers. Like, technically, anyone can become an Obsidian so long as they've had the previous powers.
They have the power?
They have the power. And they have that power, they can also make thralls of people if they so choose.
Power of voodoo?
So,
Voodoo?
slave states with allowing people to ascend to a higher plane of authority.
Pretty much.
This is like a dystopian layer cake.
Egg.
I appreciate the labyrinth reference.
Well, is that all for the lore of the Obsidians?
That is all for the Obsidians. I have the most on the Blazes, as that is technically the faction that my ping tuber is from.
Okay, let's see how golden boy they are.
Probably very, considering. Well, the Obsidians are the quote-unquote bad of the universe. The Blazes are the quote-unquote good. That is how I
yeah. Yes. They have hearts of gold, as in hard and pure.
And how much can you sell them on the open market by the pound?
Oh my goodness. But the Blazes are a group of individuals with great power that use it to defend the galaxy against the forces of the Obsidians. They are a militant diarchy. They have 4 leaders. There's Mystic, Diplomat, Vanguard, and Marauder. Mystic is the ultimate say-so. Like, they have the most power in terms of the 4. Both in their mystical powers and diplomatic weight.
Wait, why is there a role for diplomat if the mystic has more diplomatic power than...
Because sometimes the Mystic can't be there in 2 places at once. They can't handle all the diplomatic shit, so normally Diplomat is the one to handle it.
So the Diplomat is the Mystic's secretary, but he gets a seat on the council anyway because, you know, he's there. We can't exactly give him a desk in the front of the audience chamber.
But they do not grant us the title of master.
Same kind of energy.
Kind of, yeah. Diplomat is also more or less kind of an advisor as well to Mystic, because most of the time Diplomat is a former Mystic.
That's gotta be demeaning.
Little bit.
I mean, you have the same kind of powers as the guy who almost runs the show with advisory, but you're stuck in the kiddie seat while they're making all the decisions unless they go away, and then you're only allowed to handle things outside of the territory.
Well, it also depends on what kind of Mystic is in charge, because certain Mystics give Diplomat a bit more...
Oh, so it's entirely up to whether or not the boss allows you to have more powers that are better suited to what you can actually do.
Kind of. Words are hard. Communication is not my forte.
2 + 2 = fish.
Actually, I misphrased on my part.
Then rephrase, please.
Mystic is kind of like, I'm trying to think of it in, like, words hard. 2 + 2 = fish, English is a bastard language, all that in this moment, because my brain is just like, how do I describe this properly?
Okay,
Obviously
let's see.
you don't.
The Mystic fulfills what role in this society?
The first thing that comes to mind is the Mystic is the face.
Okay, they are the face. They are outward facing, which means that when people think of the Blazes, they think of, wow, that Mystic, what a guy, or girl, or what have you. I don't understand that gender.
Yeah.
Okay. So if they're just the face, then do they make outward facing decisions? Are they are they the face of the government? Are they the face of diplomacy? Are they the face of
They're the face of the
spirituality?
They're the face of government and I guess kind of spirituality, because their powers, their mystical powers are always the most prominent.
Okay, so they occupy a moral guide position.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. What about the other parts of the government, aside from the secretary?
Vanguard is head of military.
Okay. Are they in charge of all military duties, or are they in charge of foreign invasion and occupation, or domestic occupation?
They're the more, I guess, defensive of the military.
So they handle security, border security, and thwart invasions on quote-unquote good space.
Yes. And then Marauder is also a head of military, however, they're the more aggressive one, who actually goes out and actually handles military charges into enemy space, like military forays, but they're also kind of in charge of a science area as well.
Okay, so they're in charge of going out, hurting people that hurt other people, and bringing back their corpses so that we can understand how to hurt them better.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And that
Okay.
is the leadership.
So, with this division of power, the three main ones are a moral guide, a defense-oriented general, and a offensive-based general that also deals with R&D.
Yes. Also, hello, Dan.
Hello.
I'm giving
Yes,
Ronan
hello.
I'm giving Ronan a rundown of what he missed last time.
Fair enough.
Last
Okay.
time on Dragon Ball Z!
Yeah.
I apologize for being late, but at least I'm here at all. I was supposed to be working until 11, but we were deader than my
Dan?
hopes and dreams. So.
Dan, the viewers are here to hear about lore. I appreciate that you're giving us, and I would love to hear about your day after the stream.
I was just giving an explanation. Sorry. I'll be quiet.
I appreciate it. I want to hear about your day. I am your friend, but the viewers are not necessarily your friends.
This is accurate.
We'll hear all about it when we go off stream. How's that?
Exactly.
Alright. Now that's sorted out. One last thing before we move on to anything else.
Mhm.
Who is taking care of literally everything else in the Empire?
Also, did you write out the part about, like, the Obsidians never taking prisoners and having a policy not to take prisoners, but
I did not mention that, thank you.
prisoners when they can?
I hadn't gone over the whole military aspect, but yes, the Obsidians don't believe in taking prisoners unless it's a high-ranking member. The Blazes are the opposite of that. Where they
How
prefer
many
to...
people does it take to deliver a message?
One.
Okay. You know, I kind of feel like that should be the opposite policy.
You feel like they should be flipped?
Yeah. Okay, hear me out here. So, Obsidians have a way of making thralls, right? And also ascending people to become more Obsidians.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that mean that if they're going out and raiding territory or taking more territory, instead of killing off everyone that could be useful, just capture, sublimate, and or subjugate, and then throw them to work wherever they need them, thus perpetuating the slave state?
That does seem more practical.
That does seem more practical.
Plus, it would cover the torture makes you evil trope.
That is true. And then for the Blazes, you have not told me at all if obsidians can be reverted, or if obsidians can be held or are worth being held. So
yeah, that is
they-
weird because you did bring up during the last stream that like blazes can be corrupted by the obsidians, but you didn't bring up if obsidians can be redeemed by the blazes.
They can be redeemed. They can be redeemed. I will say that much. The thraldom can also be broken.
okay. Then a reverse of those policies may not be, necessary, but I feel as though if the Blazes take on any prisoners they can, then if the Obsidians say, make a quote-unquote daring plan to initiate a fight with the Blazes, throw thralls up front in order to take the brunt of the attacks, and then miraculously all of the obsidians decide to surrender, there may be a point where taking those prisoners would be a problem. Maybe there's corruption at play. Perhaps the obsidians are trying to do something from within the state of the blazes. That seems like a major breach of security.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd think that maybe after these eternity of fighting, the Blazes on at least the Marauder side would be less inclined to take prisoners and more inclined to, well,
Rip
if they
and tear
manage to
until
beat
it's
a...
done.
What was that?
Rip and tear until it is done.
That? More like that? I mean, if a Thrall manages to go down and they're still alive, yeah, sure, we'll take them. But if an Obsidian goes down and we're still in the middle of a fight, I don't think they'd be opposed to double tapping and moving on.
True.
The problem here is that we're trying to make good and evil in what is essentially a war, and there's no winners in war.
War does not determine who is right, only who's left.
And
True.
war demands a compromise of your principles, regardless of what they are. So, I would suggest that within lore, maybe the Marauders are a little less Blaze-like and a little more Obsidian-like than anyone would care to admit.
That would make sense, considering how much contact they have with Obsidians.
I'm so glad I missed one session and coming back and just giving everything.
Hey, no, I appreciate it because, again...
Hello there.
Hello there. Congrats on first, sir. Sorry, talking chat. But yeah, I honestly appreciate it because I'm sitting here like, I don't know how to make revisions completely because I get attached to things, so maybe it was a good idea for me to be like, you know what, constructive criticism and suggestions, please.
Yeah. I'm always ready to play devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
You're ready to play devil's anything, Ronan.
Yeah.
Do we have an NSSZ channel?
Did I make one?
Not on this server.
Hold on.
Because I have a comment about that.
Hold up.
Oh boy.
Alright, it is made. I'm muting it, and I'm hiding it from myself.
Lovely.
It's under voice channels. Just because, for ease.
I do like me some convenience.
So far, we have the overall governmental structure along with the general military tactics versus prisoners. So what makes these guys the good guys aside from, blocking the obvious evil empire from destroying the entire universe?
That's a good question. What do the Blazes believe in that makes them the good guys? Quote unquote.
That is a good question, one that I don't think I've answered for myself either.
We can come back to it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so
Plenty of more world-building streams.
definitely. So let's roll back the morality of that and move forward with both of these societies are military based. One of them is obviously just tyranny. So this one would be less tyrannical.
Okay, for my 80s man-child self, basically, what makes the... We know what makes the Obsidians the Decepticons. What makes the Blazes the Autobots?
Pretty much. Also, I think Ronan cut out.
Did I?
Not sure.
Because I heard...
I hear him.
I didn't hear anything.
He might have just
Okay.
been being quiet.
I can hear him.
Yeah, I can hear him too.
I heard him then, but it's just like, I heard him start to say something and then it just like fizzled out for me. Probably on my end. My internet's been strange.
Possibly. My cell phone internet is spotty at the best of times.
Hmm.
But in any case, continuing on with the recap, what the Blaze do?
What the Blazes do the Blazes do?
Yeah, that.
So you're just asking what they do in general? For
Anything
gave
you've
me-
written.
anything I've written?
Yeah, anything you've written. You gave me that the Obsidians are a strict, power-based society. You told me that they can corrupt people, and you told me that, where they live.
Right. My brain just buffered for a moment. I'm like,
If
can
you need a
hear
moment,
him.
we can go back over Matt's lore from last session, because Ronan still needs a recap on that, or my lore.
Oh, would you like a recap on my, British cat people in space, Ronan?
Hold on a moment. Oh, yeah, I see the art now. That's... Okay, I think I get the aesthetic.
Yeah, the aesthetic is not... I mean, it's basically Battlefleet Gothic / Warhammer 40,000 in this setting.
That, it's not a bad
but
idea.
without the grimdark.
We have an hour left. Like, we've used up half our time, so...
Right,
can we go over the
recap.
actual lore instead of the aesthetics?
Okay,
Okay.
I will keep it... I will try to keep it brief.
Yeah, just tell me who they are, what they do, what's their government like, and run me through like a typical day in this spaceborne empire.
Okay. So their homeworld is Anakar 3, the third planet of the Anakar system. Their government is a militant meritocracy-based parliament.
Hmm.
They are most well known for trade, exploration, space supremacy, naval warfare, shipbuilding, and negotiation. They control 13 planets within the 3 closest systems to their homeworld, but they have negotiated and established multiple naval bases and ports on other worlds. Their dominant religion is the Church of the Stars and Waves. They basically evolved from feline predators on Anakar 3, which is a mostly water world with lots and lots of lush jungle islands.
Okay.
They developed a idea of 3-dimensional hunting and stuff early on, liking to spring from the trees upon their prey. They have excellent night vision, hearing, and sense of smell, and possess retractable claws in their fingers and toes.
Okay, so jungle cats evolved to become British naval captains in the naval parts and the trade parts.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a king that was a tribal king. He was basically King Arthur, kind of mixed with Alexander the Great.
Yeah, he was basically the first, last, and only king of the Anak, and basically when he died, his last act was to establish the Parliament of Equals. So that's where the Parliament comes from, and the reason they are British cat people, British Navy type cat people, is because during the Golden Age, the Parliament of Equals decided upon the Anakin Code of Conduct and Composure, a set of guidelines for civilized peoples to hold themselves to. It's still relevant, and it influences their art, culture, clothing, and mannerisms as they pay homage to this era. So basically, a race of cat people who, despite being spacefaring, cosplay as Victorian English.
So these are very traditional people.
They are very traditional people.
Thus, they pay reverence to their great unification myth.
Yes. Would you like me to briefly go over the Church of the Stars and Waves since I mentioned that?
Yeah. Give me just brief overview of the tenets.
Ancestor worship and nature worship. Honor the ancestors. Believe the greatest of them to be reborn within stars. When they enter a star system, they eject a pod filled with incense and small offerings into the system's sun to pay honor to the great spirit within. They also give homage to the waves and nature through it. They seek harmony and grace with nature, especially the sea, and as part of this, their ships are works of art so that the Sea Mother finds them pleasing. It's a very informal religion, with the leader usually being an elder, with the leader of a congregation being an elder or veteran sailor, one who has experienced the bounty and wrath of both the stars and the waves. It's a deeply personal religion, with each person encouraged to explore their own connections to the spirits and nature. In it, science is simply seen as another avenue of exploration and understanding of the stars and waves.
Okay. What I'm getting from this is that culturally they are very traditional people, and their religion keeps their traditions as independent explorers with an emphasis on a reincarnation myth.
Yes.
Where going out and surveying the stars is also a way to go out and find those ancestors that have done great things and give them offerings to, say thanks?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we mentioned the Great King. Basically, the next system over, its son is named after him, so...
Okay, yeah. I guess that one gets a lot of traffic.
Yep, yes it does. And the only truly concrete part of the religion is knowledge of one's ancestral history. Formal introductions require regaling a new acquaintance with the names and greatest achievements of at least the last 4 generations of one's direct line. Again, that's only a formal introduction, but still.
I can get the feeling that formality is integral.
Oh yes, very much. Unless you're a friend or a close acquaintance.
So I'm going to be getting a feeling that, hear me out, within this civilization, there has been, at least at one point, where 2 people have met, spouted off the names of their last 4 generations. One insulted the other in the introduction, thus requiring another introduction as they start a duel.
I would be amazed if that had not happened.
Okay.
And
I'm not going anywhere with this. I found that hilarious.
No, I find the idea hilarious too. And the greatest honor is to be included into what they call the Great Line. Of those ancestors whose deeds are so great, all Anak may include them when paying homage to the ancestors. So, again, it's a meritocracy where basically you're striving to be the best you can be in order to ascend.
I can see a lot of good stories coming out of there with trial, tribulation, and tragedy, trying to find all the glory they can be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How much time do we got left, Doc?
Still about an hour. I thought you were done, so I was gonna ask Zell if she was ready yet. Or if you wanted me to go over my lore. Or you could continue with yours, anything works.
I could quickly go over the new stuff I've written since last session. It's basically the TLDR Anakin History of Spacefaring, which also goes over some of their traditions for spacefaring.
What do you think, Zell?
I'm fine with it.
How about you, Doc?
Works for me.
Okay. So, the Anakin History of Spacefaring. So, someday I'll figure out how I want to pronounce this dang name. The Anak had their first man.
Anakin Skywalker.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that was thinking it.
I've thought it too, and I'm the one that came up with the dang name, so. But anyway, the Anak had their first manned space flight over 1,500 galactic standard years ago. And they've possessed interstellar travel for over 1,200 years. This was after they'd fully colonized their home system. Due to this, they are one of the oldest and most prominent spacefaring races. Well, I say one of, in the current day, just due to how long they've been out there. Does that work with your lore, Zell?
That's fine.
Okay, so due to their love of exploration, many of the established galactic travel and trade routes were first established by their explorer fleets and their Grand Navy. They've also made many first contacts and discovered, quote-unquote, many pre-space flight civilizations. In these cases, if the species is friendly and seems to have potential as fellow spacefarers, then the Anakan may decide to uplift them, teaching them how to make spaceflight technology. Any such decision is only made after a debate is held within the Parliament of Equals. One example of a society the Anak uplifted is the Ikarian Republic. Say hello, Daniel.
Hello.
I missed the chance to say hello, Daniel.
Yes. This relationship can sometimes be smothering to the younger spacefarers, as the Anak feel responsible for them, their actions, and their safety. However, in most cases, if formally requested to, the Anak will back off. Still, many worlds are all but protectorates of the Anak. The Anak love shipbuilding almost as much as they love using their vessels, and they require many to protect their spread out interests. As such, they produce at least 3 capital ships a year, and keep their existing vessels upgraded and in service. Because of this, the Grand Navy alone has approximately 1,448 vessels of varying tonnage, while the traders and explorers each have their own somewhat smaller fleets. The Anak believe that ships have souls and should never be scuttled or decommissioned if there's another choice. As a result of this, some of the hulls in their fleets are over 1,000 years old and still functional. If a ship does need to be decommissioned or scuttled, or is otherwise destroyed, it is buried with full honors, and is mourned as if it were a beloved family member. Some of the larger ships even allow for families to be aboard, especially explorer vessels. As such, entire generations can and have been born, lived, served, and passed on aboard a ship, some never willingly leaving their home vessel. And that's the new stuff I had. And very quickly, for Ronan's sake, basically, the Anakin space effort is divided into 3: the Grand Navy of Anakar, which is the military; the Exemplary Guild of Traders, which is, basically rogue traders; and the Supreme Convention of Explorers, which are basically explorator fleets.
Okay. Nice to hear from you, Snack Enjoyer, by the way. And we will have fun with world building.
Thank you so much, Snackin. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congrats on second, by the way. I was reading along with them, so I was tapped out of stream elements.
Okay,
OBS.
so I think I've said everything I had to say, and thank you for indulging me.
You're welcome. I have posted a meme in the memes channel about the Anak.
Oh, I gotta go see me this. Yes, that's accurate.
So are you ready to go, or do you want me to go back over what I did for Querl last week?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm gonna go over the home territory, home planet, and then, the powers, like I did with the, Obsidians. My brain just crashed on me beforehand, so I apologize. Their home system is called the Nebula Fields. Many stars, planets call the Nebula Fields home. A lot of harvestable materials can be found in abundance in the stars, in the many nebulas, and the asteroids and the planets themselves. The planets themselves have been willingly playing host to the blazes. This is through trade agreements, protection promised, or they were not inhabited when the blazes found them. This is the area of the galaxy where the blazes train, build, heal, and rest from battle. Their home planet is called Bashan. It is a planet that hosts many different locales upon its surface. It has been well maintained by the blazes since they first came into being on it, home to countless species of flora and fauna, and many of the unique species of the universe have come to call it home as well. There are ruins, but that comes with the territory of having enemies like the Obsidians, but they always rebuild. They have a safe haven called the Crystal Heart. Basically, it's in an area only that one person knows about, and at this moment it is Mystic, because that is me. The Crystal Heart is where I stream, basically.
Wait, does that mean we're in the Mystic Heart, Crystal Heart right now?
Yes. Congratulations, please do not resist. To make a Star Wars reference.
Does that mean that the Crystal Heart essentially builds the entire universe?
Ooh, I like where you're going with this, Doc.
Fair point, actually. But basically, the only reason why 1% of the Blazes knows about the Crystal Heart is because they are the caretaker. And it just so happens to be Mystic this time around, because sometimes it's other people. But as for their powers, unlike the Obsidians, who only have one source of power, the Blazes have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different subsets. And it's kind of a, hierarchy, because I have it written in the lore that Blaze's powers can evolve into other, types of the powers. So, for example, if I started at the bottom, I could technically evolve all the way up to the top of the, power hierarchy.
Started at the bottom, now you're here?
So, sounded like a cultivator fantasy then?
Kind of, it's just basically, if you have the right stimuli and the right situation and everything like that, you can up your power.
Saying death rules.
I don't know what that is.
We're not that brutal, to be honest.
Yeah, Saiyan death rules. In lore, when a Saiyan dies or almost dies and comes back, they grow stronger.
I see.
Saiyan death rule.
I mean, that is technically something that could happen to make you evolve, but we're not that brutal here.
Does that mean that it's incentivized within their culture to fight as much as possible in order to gather those extreme circumstances?
I think I think it because it's not that, and I think it's more they're incentivized to experience as much as possible because they don't know the exact circumstances under which they personally will get stronger.
Yeah.
Okay, so
for each
it's
person, a
personal
stimuli
experience.
is different. Yeah, personal experience.
Okay.
For each person is different. One may be through fighting, the other through discovering something new via science. Basically.
It's that old thing that a friend told me about, like an old Star Wars MMO where you could only become a Jedi by leveling up one random class. It's kind of like that, but instead of everyone leveling up their classes to try to min-max it, everyone just wants to experience as much as they can to try to min-max it.
Okay, now I'm just thinking about a Blaze at a cafe somewhere, drinking another blend of coffee, just, ooh, this is good. I have ascended.
That's funny.
Well, I mean, if it's the if it's the coffee from Girl Genius, then that's not that's possible.
Okay. So this race is more concerned with experiencing as much as possible, thus adventuring, exploration, scientific endeavors, artistic endeavors.
Oh,
Just
especially artistic
overall
endeavors.
doing something. Okay, overall just doing something new to provoke this reaction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you like
I
to
suppose
hear
that
of
would
the
lead-
powers?
Yeah, sure.
I'll keep them relatively brief because I always have just one thing that is brief on them, and I'll just do that. We have, at the bottom, we have Sunstone. Their color is orange, their element of control is wind, they are the wild cards, pilots, etc. Then we have, above them, Amethyst. Color is purple, obviously. Element is earth. They are scientists, techs, medics, healers, and archaeologists. Then we have Ruby. Color is red. Element and control is fire. They are frontline fighters. The more aggressive frontline fighters, I should say. Because next we have Sapphires, which are blue in color, and element control is water. They are the protectors and shields of the military. And then finally, at the very top, we have Diamonds, whose power color is silver, and their element of control is the mind and spirit. Yeah.
You know what you just described to me?
Hmm?
You just described to me a journey.
Oh.
Yeah, because starting from the bottom, you have pilots and wild cards to explore. Then you move on to scientists and intellectuals to discover. Moving on to frontline fighters, aggressors, invaders to conquer. Then moving on to shields to protect. Then moving on to leaders to control. A transitional state between someone who is exploring and experiencing to a person that has experienced, has explored, conquered what he wills, protects it at his leisure, and controls that which is within.
I never thought about it like that. That's really cool.
I thought that was kind of the intention, because about how they have stimuli that helps them move on to another power set. It would be this explorator going out and seeing something, or being in a place, or doing something that they've never done, and is so great for them that they wish to discover more. Thus, the intent is to discover, changing them to an intellectual power set, where they are allowed to study the thing that they have found, or to discover more. And once they do, they wish to find more of it, to conquer, to go and find the places where this thing is, and then go and grab it. And once they have that, they wish to protect it. Shield. They wish to protect things, to make sure that they stand with them, that they are not in the hands of those that they deem unworthy. And lastly, to lead, to control. They now own this. They want to control, to manipulate, to be something more than it is.
Oh.
Am I going too far?
No, I'm just sitting here dumbstruck because I had never thought about it like that, because basically how it works in my mind is blazes can be born or discovered in any of the first four areas for their first layer of power, but you can never be a diamond right off the bat. That you have to evolve to, like there's no choice in that matter.
Oh, yeah. Leadership comes with experience.
Yeah, but you can start as either a sunstone, amethyst, ruby, or sapphire.
Not bad. I guess people start out at different phases of their life, you know?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Everybody wants different things.
Yep.
That's not a bad way to do power sets, and good on you for coming through with that.
Patting myself on the back. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have for the blazes. The rough overview, because it would take much longer for me to actually read through all that I've written. Because that's multiple pages in Google Docs.
Gotcha. Yeah. Based on government structure, the fact that they are constantly at war, I can see how they can be touted as the good in the galaxy. They are literal protectors. I mean, the only way I can probably nuance this is that they've been protectors of the galaxy so long that they're kind of entitled to the position.
Yeah, pretty much, because them and the Obsidians were there literally from the get-go.
Which, I mean, I guess that would lead to clashes with other civilizations regardless, depending on, hey, we have Obsidian activity in this area, we're gonna need you to stand back so we can deal with this. No, we have things here that we want. I'm sorry, the Obsidians are in the sector. You need to leave.
That is a way that it could have been handled in the past. I will say that. Certain rounds of the governance handle things very differently. And also it just leads to the rise of they could also find allies in the fight against the Obsidians, or enemies that want to ally with the Obsidians.
So, my question...
And that, holier than thou, protector of the galaxy thing, yeah, it could come across as another way to nuance it is, sometimes it's just straight up patronizing. We know what is best. Your ideas don't matter.
Yep. A way I could see to nuance it is, in a race built on experience, what happens if you get the distinct impression that you're just built wrong, and you try a bunch of different experiences and you never ascend at all, you never feel like you're getting anywhere? Where does that leave you, and at what point do you start questioning, what if I need to start doing more dangerous experiences? What if I need to start being a little worse?
Well, now you're just getting into worm territory. Fuck you, Wild Blow.
But that is an interesting dilemma. If the society puts so much emphasis on advancing, moving on to other power sets, because if you're doing that, then that means you're doing your job as part of the species and going and experiencing more stuff. Does that create a stigma around that entity? How long do you have to live without going through an evolution before people start wondering, what are you doing wrong? Should we be near you?
I actually had a very funny situation where this came up in the level 30 D&D game I was part of. We had a wizard whose defining trait was the determination to learn things. And because they wanted to learn things so much, they eventually learned how to kill a god and take their place and ascend to godhood. And they did. And my character, post-game, after the game had ended, I messaged the DM and I said, my character is a druid who wants life to flourish. He currently worries, hey, what if this guy gets too curious and starts wondering, what if everyone's hearts turned inside out? And started enacting weird experiments on a godly scale. What then? I want to start to look into a way to stop him, even though he's my former party member, or at least prevent him from doing that.
Okay, I think I see where that goes. Nothing's really...
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Whenever you put too much emphasis on any one thing, it can become corrupted. Especially something like learning or experiencing. If you say, when do you start questioning, what if the experience I need to become my truest self is to rip a man's heart out of his chest? What happens then when someone starts asking the wrong questions and the wrong reasons?
Yeah. Nobody really is saying that the positive experiences are the ones that you need, so...
Exactly. So...
If nothing's going right, how about you do a little wrong? I get that. That's good.
I think that's how I would add nuance to this thing, is I'd make people start questioning and start asking the wrong questions.
Couple that with a long-lived god complex, and yeah, we're looking at apathetic angels.
Oh. That is a good point. I will say that. That is a interesting way to go about the nuance.
And it adds a little bit more individualization.
Mm-hmm.
Because looking at individual entities of this species, there could be entire subcultures focused around, hey, we're going to go out around the galaxy and we're just going to experience sad. You want to come along? Roving bands of sensates around the galaxy trying to soak up as much feeling or experience as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Is it about time we go into my lore and what I wrote last week?
See why not, Zell?
Yeah, go for it.
Alright, so I haven't expanded too much from what you first heard. I did refine a few things. So the more complete version is that my world, Querl, is on basically the outskirts of the galaxy. It's like on the very edge. At one point, before space travel was available to them, they had a major EM field, basically, an electromagnetic field around the planet that, in essence, prevented them from leaving or being able to space travel, but also prevented like other spacefaring races from being able to get to them. However, it served a much, much more important function than just that, because it did what any EM field does around a planet, and it protected the planet from cosmic radiation. So, one day, a group of heroes got together. They were either tricked or thought on their own that they were doing the right thing by trying to get rid of the EM field so that they could contact the rest of the galaxy, and the rest of the galaxy could contact them. And they did. And, to everyone's knowledge on the planet, they did so on a day now known as the Day of Crimson Skin. I wanted to just say red skin, but there's potential wording issues there. However, for anyone, basically only me, who knows anything about rad biology in the call, you may note erythema, or reddening of the skin, does not happen until 24 to 48 hours after radiation exposure. So, technically they did it either the day or the day before, but no one knows that because everything's dead from cosmic radiation poisoning, or those that are alive have horribly mutated, including, as I mentioned before, the embodiment of the planet's natural and ambient magic. It chose to take a form there, and it could not be killed because how do you kill the concept of ambient and natural magic? Now, the planet is mostly used for weird genetic experiments and weird mutational shit. And there are a group of people that live there, but they live in basically colonies directly above and orbiting the planet. And they kind of just look down on anything that still exists below. Because, you know, it's all weird, mutated, freaky shit that could kill them. And that's most of what I have developed. Since the first stream.
Okay.
Questions? Of note, last stream I went over a custom Warlock pact with the embodiment of magic that is potentially no longer relevant because we decided we are not doing 5e anymore.
This isn't a question about like what you just said. It's just general curiosity on my part. What kind of... Alright, this is going to sound weird, but I'll explain it. What kind of like race are your people? Are they like humanoid? Are they like humans? Elvish? Like living fire? Like my god? Like that kind of thing is what I'm trying to...
Basically, at one
This is
point
just me being curious.
I appreciate your curiosity. At one point, it was typical high fantasy, which means there was any type of high fantasy race, so anything you would expect from like D&D settings. So there were humans, there were elves, there were half-elves, there were gnomes, there were dwarves, there were dragons, there were devils, there were angels. There weren't necessarily gods, at least not on the planet, but there were beings of every sort. There were orcs, there were cat people, probably not the same cat people as Matt has. There were probably some lizard people, there was probably some fae. Anything that remains nowadays is something that managed to starve off its own destruction in some way. And it is absolutely mutated to all hell. So it's not going to be recognizable as what was once a fae, what was once a fairy, but there are certainly what was once the fairy race down there. What was once the elf race down there.
Gotcha.
So, like Judge Dredd level mutants?
I don't know that reference.
Now I get to feel old. basically things that kind of sort of vaguely resemble the thing they once were, but now have more limbs, eyes, and pustules than can be recognizable.
Some of them would have mutated that way, yes. Not all of them. Again, mutations are very funny in that they can appear in all sorts of different ways. It's not always just a three-eyed fish wandering around.
True.
I haven't decided the exact ways that mutations have manifested for everyone, but yes, there are certainly things that have more limbs than they should. But there's also things that have, like, you could have, like, bird people that have gotten, osteopetrosis, which is a disease potentially caused by a mutation that causes your bones to become hard like ivory, which is not good in a race that needs to fly. There could be any sort of weird shit down there that I just haven't come up with yet. If you have suggestions, I'm very happy to hear them.
It actually kind of reminds me of a book that I read / heard about. It was a book about humanity going out into the stars and evolving in different ways, encountering a uh, overwhelmingly powerful creator race that mutated them at their leisure, and then they left the humans to their own devices until eventually everybody died aside from the ones that were left in space.
Ugh.
I say that not because the plot was relevant. I say it because it was basically a book kept together so that one guy could show his really gruesome art to everybody. I kind of want to find it now because this mutation stuff seems like it'd be right up that alley.
Yeah, I was more envisioning, like, some of that, but also, like, some of, like, slime creatures that have mutated into, like, beings of pure electrical current, or something like that.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry. I kind of default to Geiger-esque bullshit, so...
It doesn't always need to be. Yeah. Some of it certainly is. And, the fact that everything there is basically subject to random experiments, so long as the people above will it, can definitely result in some grotesque, horrible shit. But not everything that's down there is still bad, it's just weird.
Okay.
It doesn't all have to be Cronenberg. Any other questions?
None on my end. Does not appear to be.
No, I don't think so.
Okay then.
Yes, this might be disturbing. I'm just gonna put this in an FSZ. These are the kind of things I was looking at.
Fun. and beautifully creepy and fucked up.
Yeah, the book's called All Tomorrows. Have fun.
By the way, speaking of stuff, I put something in no mic based upon what you said, Ronan.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Okie doke.
Hmm. Do you have anything
Oh.
new, Dan?
No,
Nothing.
nothing major. I'm actually kind of like in the back of my mind brewing up another civilization,
New?
but I don't have enough ready to share other than, just concept.
Fair.
Yeah, kind of the same with me. I'm still rolling around in my head the specifics of this Civ, and I'll put it in the category of Will Building Zone as soon as I get the doc done.
Roger, Roger.
I think we did some really good stuff here.
I agree. The perks of having this being streamed is that I have VODs of this, meaning I don't necessarily have to write everything down. I can go back, listen to it a bunch of times, and then write it down.
Yep.
The modern equivalent of a tape recorder,
Yep.
but public.
But public, yes. Alrighty. Then I suppose that will be all for this week's, since everything else relies on specifics and everything like that.
I'll probably, assuming I'm not booked to work next week, I will probably have enough of my second faction to share by next week. So,
Okay. Good to know. Alrighty. Then I am going to find someone to raid on my end, and I'm gonna slip into private talks real quick, and then I'll be back if people are still wanting to talk afterwards.
Okay.
fair enough.
Sure.
Alrighty. I will be back then.
Bye, friends.
Goodbye.
Adios.
I'm sorry I cut you off, Matt. Sorry, brain. We are going to raid Sherb. They are playing Until Dawn right now. It's technically a horror game, but it's not that bad. But thank you guys so much for joining. I very much appreciate all the support for the lurks and everything. It does mean a lot. I will be getting a streaming scheduled prepared once again, and you'll hear from me again eventually. Hopefully we can do more stuff like this. It's fun. Alrighty. I will talk to you guys later and give Sherb some love.